Well, he lived an incredibly harsh life, and it had a very harsh ending. There are a lot of people who grow up in tough environments and don't get opportunities. He had lots of opportunities. I'm not overly religious, but if there's a man upstairs, he gave him Tebow, he gave him Brady, he gave him Belichick, he gave him Urban Meyer, he gave him great leaders, great cultures, and he continued to make choices that veered often toward violence. So, I just think opportunities, financial opportunities, football opportunities, life choices, he made poor ones. And when you do live this harsh life, which he would acknowledge was the life he chose, this is often the ending.
I was shocked this morning how sad I was to read this news. I was kind of shaken up and sad. And I was like, wow, where is this coming from? And then as I thought it through, and I was reading people's reaction over social media to him, and I saw a lot of people calling him a coward, or this was a cowardly act. And I think he was involved in a lot of reprehensible, cowardly acts, but I'm not sure if this fits that description. I think if you know people that have been incarcerated, if you had family incarcerated, your family and the people that love you do every day of that time that you do. They are incarcerated as well. And so I look at this act, and again, I'm not justifying it, but I think he may have been trying to provide relief for his fiance and his daughter. This act is, just cold bottom line. I think it helps protect his money. It's very expensive to fight murder charges. I think it helps him with the civil lawsuit. He may have done this to spare his daughter and his fiance more pain.
You said how you felt. I'll tell you what I felt. Nothing. I just felt nothing. I mean, it's called speak for yourself. I'll speak for myself. I feel absolutely nothing for somebody who murdered somebody else in cold blood. Good riddance. And to your point, he probably did do his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-fiance, and baby a favor, because there's not the financial burden. There's not the burden of daddy's in jail. What's he in jail for? And, there'll be some sort of martyrdom, like his lawyer saying he might not have killed himself. Somebody might have murdered him. But in the reality, he lured in Odin Lloyd, who thought he was his friend, murdered him in cold blood, then celebrated, and we all saw it on tape. And he didn't get away with it. He did possibly get away with murdering 2 other people in cold blood. I feel nothing for the fact that he's no longer of this earth.
I covered Aaron Hernandez for 2 years with the Patriots, and I remember one of my assignments leading up to the Super Bowl when the Patriots played the Giants was to do a deep dive into Aaron Hernandez, his family, his coaches from when he was little, and the story was about how he had turned his life around because, you said that this was the life that he chose, and I think when he was young, his surroundings didn't give him much of an option. And as he went to college and went to the Patriots, I think there was a period where he was turned around, and his coaches and family, his brother just was such a stand-up guy. And I remember thinking that he had turned around too, and it turns out that first murder was only 6 months after the Super Bowl. So it was so quickly after that. And I remember talking to a few of his teammates and asking if they were surprised, and they said, well, you would never expect your teammate to murder someone, but we're not really surprised. So really, I think it was just it is a tragic story because so many people had to die. I think he grew up in a really bad environment. I'm not excusing what he did by any means. He was involved in a lot of drugs, and I think it's just sad that so many people, including him, had to die.
Listen, we've all had probably, well, I won't say this. I've had somebody die in my family, multiple people, right? If the family tree goes out. And you feel differently for different people based on your association, based what they had done to support the family. When you ask the question, how do I feel about Aaron Hernandez? I didn't know him. I just knew his actions, and he took people's lives. So similar to Doug, my initial feeling this morning, there are people that we've worked with in the last 2 years that have passed, and you're sick to your stomach. But I was kind of numb. I had read so much about Aaron Hernandez, and this wasn't self-defense. This was in cold blood. He had done things to people. And I found myself a little closer to Doug where I was numb to it. This wasn't a person who had gone back and attacked or killed somebody who had taunted his family or abused him. That's where I struggle. This was a murderer.
I guess, and I think you guys' reaction completely understandable. I want to be clear on mine. anytime a human being throws their life away,
Yeah.
I believe I'm an emotional person. This guy threw his life away.
Yeah.
He's got a 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
He has a woman who loves him, who stood by him. I feel for those people. And I feel bad that he could have been so stupid and or depraved that he would make the choices that he did. And I feel sorry for a lot of athletes and young people. We have so celebrated the gangster culture
I thought
that it blows me away that the guy had the dream life, the
And
life
chose
we,
that culture.
And chose that because
Yeah.
He
we've
had just
so
signed
celebrated.
his huge deal
Well,
when
no,
he decided to do those murders.
Jason, I grew up listening to gangster rap. Obviously, not in the environment that he grew up into. But I mean, that's the culture of sports, especially in the '90s, right? And it not only glorifies guns, it glorifies gangster activities, glorifies smoking weed and other stuff. And I actually think there can be some good taken out of this story in that you want to be a gangster, this is what happens to gangsters.
here's the
You want to
thing,
glorify shooting people, this is what happens. And though I fully look, I'm a father, plus I'm a human being. He has a 4-year-old daughter. That changes when you take at least one other person's life.
There was 3 murders that he was
involved.
allegedly.
And maybe something down in Florida
He
when he was
also-
in college.
Exactly, shot someone in the face. But the Patriots knew about everything that had happened down in Florida, and they knew about his gang connections, and they still brought him onto the team. And I'm not saying that a guy who does those sorts of things cannot redeem himself and earn a chance to play in the NFL again, but I think you're right. As long as we're glorifying this gangster life and letting these guys get big NFL contracts without really redeeming themselves and figuring out how they can correct their ways, it's going to continue.